protests have been ongoing in Kenya, capturing national and international attention. The demonstrations reflect the concerns and grievances of various groups within the country who are advocating for change and seeking to address a range of social, political, and economic issues. Various groups have taken to the streets to voice their discontent and demand action. The shooting of 30-year-old Rex Masai marked the beginning of a recent surge of dozens of lives lost in Kenya as law enforcement clamped down on nationwide rallies. These terminations have further damaged the already thin confidence that people had in the police to keep the peace. Concerns have also been raised regarding the security forces' response as a fresh round of protests is set to start. Kenya is blaming the USA for funding the violence and anarchy going on. So, in today's video, we will be telling you more about these accusations. But before we continue, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel so you never miss out on whatever is going on in Africa. The Kenyan government has put the US-based Ford Foundation on notice, questioning its funding practices following the recent deadly anti-government protests that have swept the nation. The government expressed concerns to Darren Walker, the president of the Ford Foundation, over large sums of money that have been given to different non-state actors participating in demonstrations against the Finance Bill 2024. According to a letter from Principal Secretary for Foreign Affairs Korir Singhawi, the Ford Foundation awarded roughly $5.78 million to several grantees between April 2023 and May 2024, including Africa Uncensored Limited, Women's Link Worldwide, and the Kenya Human Rights Commission. The government declared that it was deeply concerned about the $1.49 million in funding that was accelerated in just the last month when protests in Kenya were at their peak. These funds, according to President William Ruto, were allegedly used to feed the violent and unstable rallies that have been intended to topple the democratically elected government. I want to ask the people at the Ford Foundation, what benefit do they gain from funding chaos? Kenyan President William Ruto said in a Sunday speech delivered in Swahili. We will confront them and inform them that if they do not support democracy in Kenya, we will do the same. If they continue to incite chaos and violence, we will do the same and tell them to either change their ways or leave, he continued. The letter demanded that the Ford Foundation submit thorough reports of its financing endeavors and evidence of its adherence to its non-lobbying guidelines. Ruto's government is under tremendous criticism after weeks of violent protests that left several properties damaged and at least 50 people terminated. The government made some concessions, but not before the protests became more intense. Protesters accused the administration of not doing enough to alleviate economic challenges and of carrying out extrajudicial loss of lives. June 20 saw the second day of demonstrations against a finance bill that was going to raise new taxes. Major incidents had not occurred on the previous day of the action, but as the sun fell on Thursday, something happened in the center of Nairobi, the capital. The demonstrators grew increasingly obstinate. Police began shooting live bullets instead of water cannons and tear gas. Mr. Masai, who was mentioned at the beginning of this video, found himself on the receiving end of it. He lost his life from bleeding after being shot in the thigh. His friend Ian Njuguna, who rushed to try to aid him when he fell to the ground, claims that his blood was all over his hands. However, as he and another friend tried to carry him to a nearby hospital, the officers tear-gassed them while carrying their dying friend. While growing calls for justice for victims are going on for the alleged excessive use of force, at least 4 police officers are set to face trial for shooting and terminating protesters over the last 4 weeks. However, the inquiries have proven to be complex. Many Kenyans no longer have much faith in the police because of their behavior. Naturally, individuals are frequently afraid to come forward, which is why the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, or IPOA, claims it has had difficulty getting witnesses to record testimonies in Mr. Masai's case or the others. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority is starting investigations based on claims made public on social media about killings, arbitrary arrests, and abductions. Taking a broad view of the entire protest period, there have been scores of videos that seem to capture what protesters and the police oversight body claim to be excessive force and other infractions committed by the police as they put an end to the demonstrations. One video, taken close to the Parliament buildings, shows a demonstrator approaching the police with his arms raised. Shots crackle a few moments later. Later, we see him screaming while being forced into the back of a police car with wounds on both of his legs. Is this what the US-based Ford Foundation is promoting? Bear in mind that as all these tensions are ongoing, Ford Foundation President Darren Walker is to step down after 12 years. This has made people wonder if he is doing so because of these accusations. Speaking to the New York Times, the 64-year-old philanthropist disclosed he would be quitting his position as the company's boss at the end of 2025. Walker said that the changing of the guard was important. He disclosed that he had started talking to the board 2 years prior about leaving. Ford Foundation Board Chair Francisco Figueroa, while commenting on the matter, disclosed a search committee had already been convened to find Walker's replacement. According to the foundation, all the information about its operations in Kenya is transparently available on its website. Take note that the Public Benefit Regulatory Authority has forwarded a report along with the names of certain organizations to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, for investigations. According to Wambu Mabonga, the chairperson of the authority, the action targets public benefit organizations that are presently operating without the required registration and are suspected of receiving funds that may not be properly accounted for. Mabonga emphasized the importance of this step, stating that the DCI will provide a way forward after doing their investigations. It is not us to look at the criminal side of the organization. That is why we forwarded our recommendation to DCI, and I am sure the DCI will give us a way forward about them, he added. To avoid doubt, Mabonga pointed out that just 3 of the 16 organizations mentioned in communication from Courier Singwi, the principal secretary in the State Department for Foreign Affairs, are registered under the Public Benefit Organization Act of 2013. These are the Kenya Human Rights Commission, SHAFCO, and Transform Empowerment for Action. The remaining organizations are registered with the Registrar of Societies and Companies. On the controversy around the Ford Foundation, Mabonga distanced himself from the organization, clarifying that it is registered under the Public Benefit Regulatory Authority. Also, a group of Kenyans in Washington, D.C., in the U.S., held demonstrations outside International Monetary Fund offices on Saturday. Protesters, dressed in the colors of the national flag and carrying it, chanted anti-IMF slogans. The group also played Kenyan music, drawing the attention of passers-by. The group was spotted holding placards and claiming that the multilateral lender was meddling in domestic matters in Kenya. Moreover, the demonstrators demanded that the IMF accept accountability for the violence that they had seen throughout the protests. It was also said that the IMF had crippled Kenya by making billion-dollar loans that the nation was unable to pay back. Kenyans, who feel that most of the loans are not used for national development, have called for an end to this so that the country can live within its means. One of the demonstrators said that Kenyans had voiced worries about the IMF back in 2018, not just when the Finance Bill 2024 was revealed. He critiqued the fact that most Kenyans were now paying higher taxes as a result of the lending. Bear in mind that these protests follow the weeks of heated demonstrations in the country, with Kenyans also accusing the IMF of being behind the controversial Finance Bill 2024. These are indeed troubling times for Kenya as the country grapples with ongoing protests, incidents of violence, and claims against a US-based organization. The protests in Kenya are a reflection of the long-standing issues and complaints of many groups in the nation, which range from economic inequalities and human rights to political reforms. These problems must be addressed with sincere changes, responsibility, and candid communication. Even though it is said that the Ford Foundation is funding the protests, it's vital to view these assertions with caution until more proof is presented. Diverse actors and interests are frequently drawn to protest groups, making it difficult to pinpoint a single source of funding or support for them. Additionally, the international community must assist Kenya in tackling these issues. To support peace, stability, and advancement, we must offer support, direction, and resources. Together, Kenya and its foreign allies can get through these difficult times and clear the path for a better future. However, do you think the US-based Ford Foundation is fueling these protests? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the New Tourist channel. Turn on notifications too so we get notified whenever we upload videos like this. Thanks for watching and see you in our next video.